Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a game come from the indoor rink at DeForest, Wisconsin. This will be the championship game of the Blue Division of PWB. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Sam is almost finished, so we will be getting going shortly after that.
Cool.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody, back to DeForest, Wisconsin. We are getting ready for our championship game to get started this morning for the PWB Blue Division. Officials are on the ice, nets are on the ice. Looks like we're just waiting for both teams to be ready, and then we'll be able to get our warm-up periods started. This will be a rematch of a game that took place approximately 13 hours ago to a rink just about 100 feet behind us, where it was a very balmy 15 degrees in an outdoor game. Today outside it is just about 0 degrees. Bright and sunny though. But we've got a game in the indoor rink. So climate controlled, and it is going to be fantastic. Looks like we're waiting for the Roughriders to come out of the locker room. So we are still running a little bit ahead of schedule, which I am not going to complain. But it looks like the team is not quite ready yet. All right, referees have beckoned the teams onto the ice. So we see St. Peter's coming out and see the Roughriders coming in behind them. Roughriders are coming out today back in their white jerseys. St. Peter's in their dark blue jerseys. Iris Erickson back in net with her shiny black pads, blocker and catcher. The rest of the crew just getting their warm-ups started. Scorekeeper hasn't started the time yet. So looking like we'll get another extended warm-up period. Last night, this game ended up in a 4-0 victory for the Roughriders. The game wasn't that far apart, though, as it was a 1-0 game until most of the way through the third period. And then Cedar Rapids was able to get a few goals. All right, clock has finally started. So we are counting down the time until this game is able to get started today. Both teams got back to their hotels at about 11 p.m. last night. So hopefully the kids were able to get a good amount of sleeping in. And everybody is ready to have an exciting and close game today. Just about 90 seconds remaining in our warm-up period here. And then we will get this game started. All right, looks like pucks are coming in. And we're going to be able to get this game started. It'll be interesting to see what kind of lineup changes happen today. We have Flynn Hansen back today. He ended up being a little bit sick yesterday, but feeling much better today. Teams getting their final instructions from their coaches. Starting out today is going to be Jackson Jerv, centering Clara Domke and George Lanyo, with Gavin Sebring and Jackson Baker on the back end. Opening faceoff is controlled by St. Peter's. Onto Jackson Baker's stick. Knocked off of his stick, though, behind the net to Gavin Sebring. Back to Jackson Baker. Tried to ring it around behind the net, but Gavin Sebring finds it. Up to Jackson Jerv. Stolen by a St. Peter's player. Puck behind the net. Gavin Sebring reverses direction, looking for George Lanyo. Pass just out of his reach, though, and we're going to have our first icing. Compared to yesterday on the outdoor rink, this puck is going to slide a lot more true. So I would expect a few more icing calls today. Looks like we have Kettleson, Palmer, and Hansen out, along with Smith and Johnson on D. Palmer gets it, tosses it out of the zone. St. Peter's regrouping. Flynn Hansen on the forechecking pressure. Jack Kettleson with a good back check. Puck stuck around the glass a little bit. Jack Kettleson able to bring it up to the point where it is shot on net, saved by Iris. Liam Smith able to get it behind the net. Jack Kettleson takes it from a St. Peter's player. A couple players trying to get in on Jack Kettleson and able to steal it from him. Ellis almost is able to get a steal. St. Peter's dumps it in. over to Breck Johnson. Passes it up to Flynn Hansen, but a little soft, and so stolen by St. Peter's. Jackson Hunt on the forecheck. Corbin Zek coming in next on the forecheck. Off of a stick to Liam Smith on D. Passes it over to Breck Johnson. Passes it back up to Corbin. A little bit of wrestling towards the boards. Cedar Rapids able to get it deeper into the zone. St. Peter's is going to win the race, though. Corbin Zek able to cause a problem along the boards. Jackson Hunt passes it back to him behind the net. St. Peter's able to wedge it off of his stick, though. Corbin Zek back on the forecheck. DJ Elliott tries to pinch, but doesn't get a connection. Maverick able to knock it off of a stick. Gets it tied up in some skates along the boards. A lot of players in a very small area. Knocked back to the point. Shot blocked. Another shot coming. Missed off the side of the net. DJ back on D today. Able to cause a little bit of a steal. St. Peter's is able to get it, though. Shot is partially blocked, but ends up getting through Iris. St. Peter's gets their first goal of the game. Eight minutes and 53 seconds remaining in the first period. It is your Rough Riders 0, St. Peter's 1. Face off one back to Gavin Sebring. Gavin looking for some time and space. Off of Jackson Jer's stick into the offensive zone. Pass blocked by Jackson Jer, but unfortunately right back to a St. Peter's player. Pass up to Clara Domke on the wing. Got some time and space. Dumps it a little bit further into the zone, but not into an official. Gavin Sebring able to keep it into the zone. Shot from him, blocked though. George tries a shot, gets blocked as well. Now St. Peter's able to get it out of the zone. Jackson Baker able to get it. Skates it behind the net, passes it over to Gavin Sebring. Stuck a little bit on the boards with a reversal from Gavin Sebring. Pass goes up to George Lanyo. George flings it almost out of the zone. Up, it is out of the zone. Offside. Kettleson line coming back out. Face off controlled by St. Peter's. Dumped into the zone onto Liam's stick. Liam tries to get it up a little bit higher, but St. Peter's is able to win the race there. Palmer now able to jump onto a loose puck. Pass tried to go up onto Jack Kettleson's stick. Jack skating it in. Shot comes up off of the goalie's glove. Spiked almost out of the zone, but not quite. Pass gets intercepted. Rex able to skate it in. That was probably a hand pass, but not called. Shot from Breck goes in. Caught by the goalie, and we're going to have a face-off in the offensive zone. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Tried to clear it up, and now they have a breakout going. 3-on-2 coming. Cedar Rapids able to clean it up a little bit. Puck out in front of the net. Wyatt Monty on the puck. Gets it through one player. A little too fast for him to catch up to. Tries to get it out front of the net, but it gets blocked on the way. DJ able to keep it in. Spikes it back to a St. Peter's defender. And now the puck's going down. No icing called. Corbin rings it around. Maverick's going to pick it up. Stolen from him, though. Shot comes in. Corbin's able to save a goal. Puck into the middle. Jackson Hunt able to find a little bit of time and space. Spikes back to Maverick. Maverick tries to skate it through, but it falls off of his stick. Pass gets blocked to him. Maverick dumps it into the zone. Forecheck starting to get engaged. Gets all the way up to Jackson Baker on the point. Pass comes across. Little too bouncy for Gavin Sebring to handle. Gavin is able to get it a little bit deeper into the zone. Clara Domke with the puck. Pass blocked, though. And St. Peter's comes out with it. Pass goes up to George Lanyap. Up to Jackson Jerf. Off his stick to St. Peter's. Back to Jackson Baker. Pass across to Gavin Sebring. Up to George Lanyo. George passes it nicely up to Jackson Jerf. Shot and score! Goal, Cedar Rapids, Jackson Jerf, after a beautiful pass from George Lanyo, evens up the score. 5 minutes and 6 seconds remaining in the first period. It is Cedar Rapids 1, St. Peter's 1. Ensuing faceoff controlled by Cedar Rapids. Back to Breck Johnson. Passes it up to Ellis Palmer. Misses on the dump in. Jack Kettleson able to steal with an assist from Flynn Hansen. Jack tries to get it through, but ends up finding only St. Peter's sticks. Puck up to Breck Johnson. Tipped off of Jack Kettleson's stick to a St. Peter's defender. Flynn on the forward check. Missed pass. Gets off of a couple of body parts. Jack's able to get a pass. Shot comes in off of the goalie's pad. Flynn on the forecheck. St. Peter's skating it out, gaining some speed. Dumped into the zone. Breck will be first on it. Up, but he missed it. Jackson Hunt missed it as well. Angled toward the middle. Pass up to Jack Kettleson. Got a 3-on-3 developing. Jack tries a shot, but it ends up off target. Pass back into the middle, gets blocked. And now we're going to have some fun hockey. Off of DJ's skates. Shot comes in to Iris's glove. And now everyone's going to have a chance to get settled down as we were having some really fun looking pond hockey type hockey going on, but not something that coaches like to see, as that's a little bit unstructured. Face off won by Cedar Rapids. Jackson Hunt tries to get it out of the zone, but it only finds a St. Peter's stick. DJ passes it up to Maverick Rasmussen. Passes it back to DJ below the goal line. DJ rings it around the other side to Jackson Hunt. Jackson's able to get it up to Corbin Zek. 2-on-1 developing here, but a missed pass is going to make it not work so well. Shot from DJ gets blocked to the corner. Wyatt Monty rings it back up to Maverick. Maverick dumps it almost back in, but it found a St. Peter's stick and ends up back into the zone. Jackson Hunt with the puck. Stolen from him. DJ is able to clean it up into Corbin's feet. Shot comes in. DJ's able to grab it. And there we've got a trip there. Pass goes up to Corbin Zek, 2-on-1 developing. Shot gets blocked. And there's the touch. Looks like we're likely going to get coincidental penalties here. So it looks like, according to the officials, we're going to end up playing some 4-on-4 hockey here. Faceoff is going to incur in the Roughriders offensive zone. Faceoff won by Cedar Rapids. Now it's stuck in some feet. St. Peter's able to control it. 2-on-2 developing. Clara hustles back, makes it a 2-on-3. Shot comes in. Iris able to get it out of her feet. Another shot comes in off of Iris's pads. Puck back down low, stolen by Gavin Sebring. Pass goes to Clara. Clara knocks it out of the zone. St. Peter's coming back in. Shot comes in off of pads. Gavin Sebring holding on to that puck. Off of some skates to Jackson Jurf. Cedar Rapids having a really hard time holding on to the puck right now. Shot comes in. Baker is able to grab it. Gets it out of the zone nice and softly. Clara on the forecheck. Misses some feet, but St. Peter's is able to regain control. Dumped in just across the red line. Brett Johnson's going to be first one on it. Gets his stick stuck in the boards a little bit and ends up losing the puck there. Puck bounces up to Brett Johnson, or to Jack Kettleton. Skating in 1-on-2. Shot comes in right on the goalie. Saved. 21 seconds remaining in the coincidentals, and then we'll be back to 5-on-5. Faceoff is controlled by Cedar Rapids. Back to Brett Johnson. Shot is blocked coming in. George tries a little bit harder. Tries to shoot it off the back of the goalie. Doesn't make it in. Puck back up to the point. Brett Johnson finds it. Passes it across to Liam Smith. Liam with a shot that comes in just off of the goalie's pads. St. Peter's able to recover. Brett Johnson snags it down, and we've got an offside. Teams back to full strength. 1 minute and 16 seconds remaining in the first period here. Both teams playing pretty darn well. This has been an exciting game to watch. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Tossed it to Breck Johnson. Breck doesn't quite wait long enough. And we have an offside. 1 minute and 9 seconds remaining in the first period here. Face-off's coming to center ice. Face-off controlled by Cedar Rapids. Stolen off of Ellis Palmer's stick, though. Pass goes back off of Breck Johnson, almost right on net. Pass up too hot to handle for Flynn Hansen. Ellis with a steal. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to handle it cleanly. St. Peter's coming in on a 2-on-3. Cedar Rapids able to clean up the front of the net. Ellis Palmer able to block a shot. Tries to pass it up, but only finds a St. Peter's stick. St. Peter's gets it right in front of the net, but Brett Johnson's able to do enough to make no shot available. Shot goes beside the net. Ellis Palmer going to be first on it. Tries to pass it up to Flynn Hansen. Gets stolen from him, though. Shot comes off of the goalie's glove behind the net. Jack Kettleson able to complete a steal. Passes it up, but misses everybody. Finds a St. Peter's stick, and that is the end of the first period. We have gotten into our first intermission here with your Rough Riders 1 and St. Peter's 1. Really tight, fun-looking game out there. Looks very similar to how most of the game looked like last night. Rough Riders are going to need to tighten up their passing and puck handling a little bit. Can't afford to have all these pucks hitting sticks and going into empty space and getting stolen by a St. Peter's stick. Less than 30 seconds remaining in the first intermission here. The Rough Riders are getting ready to start this second period here. Got the Zek line out. Opening faceoff is controlled by St. Peter's, but blocked pass leads to a Rough Riders rush. St. Peter's coming back, though, with some speed. Rough Riders are able to slow it down at least a little bit for an offside. Faceoff is won by Cedar Rapids. St. Peter's able to regain some control, though. Corbin with a nice stick is able to break up a rush. Jackson Hunt trying to steal the puck on a forecheck, but DJ pops it in offside. Faceoff is won by St. Peter's. Lock shot into the back of the net. Gavin Sebring skating out with it, passing it up to Jackson Jurr. Runs out of space, though. Another shot comes in, saved by Iris, and covered. Faceoff is controlled by Jackson Jurf up to the point, though, and not able to get it out. St. Peter's able to keep it in, comes back to the goalie slowly. Baker able to get it to Sebring. Sebring gets it out of the zone, and we have another offside. Face off 1-2 St. Peter's. Dumped into the zone. Breck going to be first on it. Passes it behind the net. Pass gets intercepted. And a shot that Iris didn't see ends up being thankfully off target. Puck back at the point. Another shot gets partially blocked on the way through. Breck Johnson able to get it up to Flynn Hansen. Flynn to Jack. Jack getting chased. Keeping play on side. Pass into the middle, though, ends up onto a St. Peter's stick. St. Peter's having a rush starting the other direction. Shot goes behind the net. Jack Kettleson whiffs on the first try. Passes it up to Ellis Palmer. Tries to pass it out, but only finds the point person. Stuck in Liam Smith a little bit. Shot comes in, misses, goes behind the net. Another shot from the point gets blocked by Jack Kettleson. Passes to himself off the boards, and then goes off for a line change. St. Peter's takes it behind the net. Pass misses everybody. Breck Johnson's able to flag it down, though. No icing. Pass up to Maverick Rasmussen. Brings it up to Wyatt Monty. Wyatt tries to get it across, but ends up finding a St. Peter's player, and then he's able to get it deeper. And we're going to have a penalty on Cedar Rapids, and it's going to be a head contact penalty with a minor and misconduct. Having a delay here as this is a little bit of a complicated situation. So the timekeeper is getting taught what needs to happen. Officials are now ready to go. Your Roughriders are going to be shorthanded for the next 90 seconds. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Shot, it's blocked behind the net. Maverick skating up with it. Up to Corbinsack. And shot comes in off of the St. Peter's goaltender. Pass comes around. St. Peter's trying to get a rush started. And St. Peter's is able to get there first. Maverick's able to steal it, though. Puck behind the net. Right onto the goalie, though, and we're going to have a stoppage. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Dumps it a little bit deeper into the zone. Baker with it. Baker passes it to Sebring. Sebring gets caught puck handling a little bit. And now it gets rung out to the point. Clara Domke out there trying to provide some pressure. Shot goes over the net. Gavin Sebring intercepts the pass. Tries to get it softly up off the boards. Pass comes up. Rush started by the St. Peter's team. Knocked off of a stick by Clara Domke on a beautiful back check. St. Peter's tries to put it back into the middle. Toe drag doesn't happen. And dumped into the corner. Gavin Sebring able to get it. Pass goes up to Flynn Hansen. Flynn's able to get it out of the zone, but stuck in some feet, and St. Peter's comes back in. Shot comes in off of the goalie's pads. Not quite out of the zone. Now it is. Dumped back in. Gavin Sebring needs to go retrieve. Passes it up to Clara Domke. Unfortunately knocked off of her stick. Pass blocked. And Cedar Rapids not quite able to get it out of the zone. Jackson Baker having to get it again. Gets it up to Clara Domke. Clara gets it up toward Jackson Jerf, but doesn't make it to his stick. Pass gets centered. Shot comes in, saved, and we have a stoppage. 5 minutes and 37 seconds remaining in the second period here. It is a 1-1 game. Cedar Rapids just killed off a head contact penalty. And St. Peter's is also switching goalies. Back to 5-a-side now. Face off controlled by Cedar Rapids now. Jack Kettleson skating it out, passes it up to Ellis Palmer. Ellis trying to get it into the zone. Knocked off of his stick, backhand toward the middle of the net. Ends up finding a St. Peter's player. Liam Smith able to grab a loose puck. Tries to bounce it up the same side. Jack Kettleson able to retrieve. Pass up to Ellis Palmer off of his stick. Pass up to Jack Kettleson. Knocked off of his stick by a St. Peter's defender. Breck's able to regain control. George Lanio pumps it back in. Not far enough yet for icing. Jack on the forward check, trying to be a little bit of a pain. George Lanio is able to steal the puck. Jack's now able to finish the steal. Wyamonte tries to get a shot in, but ends up on all air. Jack Kettleson mishandles it, and it gets knocked out of the zone. Wyatt with the puck, gets it into the zone. Shot comes in, bounces off of the goalie. Cedar Rapids able to steal the puck. George tries the one-timer, gets a little bit stuck in his feet, bounce back to the corner. Jack rings it around to Liam. Liam's able to stop it, backstands it back towards George. And we're going to get a penalty. Cedar Rapids able to get control, and we're going to get another penalty here. This one's going to be a roughing. Face off 1-2 St. Peter's. Puck's out at the point. DJ able to bounce it off of a St. Peter's player. DJ now able to get the puck behind the net. Brings it up the middle. And there's going to be a penalty called. Tripping on St. Peter's. Back to some 4-on-4 hockey. One minute and 8 seconds of some 4-on-4 hockey, and then abbreviated Roughriders power play. Face-off is won by Corbin Zek. Back to the point. Maverick takes a shot in, misses the net. DJ on a pinch. Able to get it into his feet, brings it towards the middle. Tries a backhander, doesn't quite get in, and a little pushing and shoving in front of the net. .48 seconds remaining in the coincidental penalties. Let's see, Jerv and Palmer are out. Face-off is controlled by St. Peter's. Starting a rush. Shot comes in, saved by Iris. Gavin Sebring with the puck. Jackson Baker takes it from him. Pass comes up and out of the zone, back to St. Peter's. Shot gets blocked by Gavin Sebring. Jackson Jerv able to somewhat steal it, but puck goes back up. Big tip from Jackson Baker, able to get it over the net. Ellis puts it to a point man. Shot blocked by Gavin Sebring. Pass back up to Ellis's stick. Ellis dumps it towards George, and we're going to have an icing here. 13 seconds remaining on the power play to the Roughriders, but getting a defensive zone face-off. 1 minute and 54 seconds remaining in the second period here. We have a 1-1 game. Kettleson, Hansen, and Lanyo out. Jack Kettleson wins the faceoff, but knocked off of his stick. Back to Breck Johnson. Breck passes it over to Flynn Hansen. Flynn looking for somewhere to go with it, but finds the St. Peter's stick. Knocked off of his stick to George Lanyo. George pumps it a little bit deeper. Puck stuck in some feet. Liam Smith comes over for an important attempted clear. Puck's now out of the zone. Jack Kettleson's able to get to it first. Shot comes in into the goalie's glove and saved. 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining in the second period here. Face-off controlled by Cedar Rapids. Wyatt takes a somewhat of a wild shot that goes over the net. DJ with the pinch. Tries to get it around the net. Finds Wyatt Monty. Gets it in front. But doesn't find a Cedar Rapids stick. DJ gets it deeper again. Both of them end up taking each other down. St. Peter's able to maintain control. Maverick Rasmussen steps in. Shot finds its way to Corbin Zek. Shot comes in again. Back to Jackson Hunt. Pass goes up to Corbin Zek. Corbin with a shot that ends up off of the stick into the corner. Corbin with the puck, tries to backhand it out, and that's the end of the period. We are in our second intermission, very tightly contested, 1-1 game. Got our second intermission here. Teams are going to meet with their coaches again. "12 minutes remaining in this championship game. A very well played game between these two sides. Coaches talking to their players, trying to likely talk about the need to stay out of the box. Roughriders out on the ice. St. Peter's out on the ice. Timer just went off. So it looks like we're going to be getting this period started very, very shortly. Kettleson, Hansen, Palmer out on the forward line. Smith and Johnson on D. Referee has dropped that puck, controlled by St. Peter's on the faceoff. Puck down deep. Breck rings it around to Ellis Palmer. Off of his stick to a St. Peter's player. Flynn pops into the middle to break up the play. Jack on the forecheck. Puck ends up being offside. Shot snagged by Iris for an important save and cover. Face off to the blocker side of the Rough Riders goalkeeper. Jerf line is out. Face off controlled by the Rough Riders onto Clara Domke's stick. Clara drops it a little bit further in. Maverick hot on the forecheck. Clara gets it deeper into the zone, but doesn't quite make it all the way to the goalie. Clara is able to get it again, tries to get it into the middle, but no joy there. Maverick able to start to, and there's going to be a goal. St. Peter's 2, Rough Riders 1. Ensuing faceoff is controlled by St. Peter's. Offside. Faceoff controlled by St. Peter's. D to D pass. Up to Jackson Hunt. Corbinzek there as well. Play ends up being onside. Offside. Puck dumped in by St. Peter's. Jack Kettleson gets it behind the net. Jack Kettleson coming up with some speed. Does a nice move, but gets knocked off of his stick. Ellis Palmer with it, tries to pass it out front, but gets blocked. Flynn Hansen with the puck. Up to the D. Shot comes in, but wide. Palmer on it in the corner. Pass out to the front. Knocked off by Jack Kettleson. St. Peter's with a 3-on-1 coming in. Into Iris's glove. And we've got a stoppage in play. 9 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the third period. Your Rough Riders are down 2-1 to St. Peter's. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's, but out of the zone. Jackson Jerp in on the forecheck. Good looking rush coming in, but a really nice back check from Clara Domke. Maverick is the next person on it. Able to handle a couple of players, but a pass goes awry. DJ Elliott with the puck, tries to get it out, but only finds the St. Peter's stick. Pass gets to Jackson Jerp, then in George Lanios. DJ trying to get it out, able to get it out of the zone. Maverick Rasmussen's going to be the first one on the loose puck. Maverick getting some speed. Shot goes off the side of the net. And DJ just had a stick broken. Well, I guess we're now on to the extra long Swift. And looks like DJ is going to be getting the penalty called on him. Face off controlled by St. Peter's. Shot comes in. Saved by Iris. Referee lost sight of it, so we are having a face off. Face off controlled by St. Peter's again. Shot came in onto Gavin Sebring's stick. Gavin Sebring skating it hard. He's got a whole bunch of players chasing after him, but he loses control of it at the last second. Jackson Hunt tries to pass it in front, but touched by a high stick. So we're going to have a face-off in the offensive end. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Dumped out of the zone to Gavin Sebring. Passes it up to Jack Kettleson, off of his stick to Wyatt Monty. Wyatt with a long shot that ends up right on the St. Peter's goaltender. Face-off is controlled by St. Peter's. Shot comes in, and a goal. St. Peter's 3, Cedar Rapids 1. Seven minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Your Roughriders are down by 2. Face-off controlled by Cedar Rapids. George Lanyo able to get it into the zone. Brett Johnson gets it, swings it across, but not quite where Liam was. St. Peter's is going to get there first. Claire Domke tries to clear the puck in, but fans on it. St. Peter's gets a good looking shot. Another shot came in off of the post. No problem. Pass came in and off to the side of the net. St. Peter's back on it. Shot comes in, saved by Iris, cleared to an empty wing. Brett tries to pass it up to Jackson Jerv. And then Clara Domke skates it in, knocked off of her stick. And St. Peter's coming back in on a rush. St. Peter's coming in 2-0, and another goal. It is 4-1. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Then on to Maverick Rasmussen's stick. Maverick pumps it up into the neutral zone. Battle going along the boards. Can't really see what's going on. Corbin Zek able to come out with it, but a pass came out to nowhere. Wyatt is able to accelerate some and get a breakaway, but not able to score. Face-off controlled by St. Peter's. Hit hard. Looks like that's going to be an icing. Back down into the offensive zone. Roughriders really digging themselves a hole here with a pretty tough third period so far. Need to get 3 goals in the next 5 minutes and 14 seconds. Face-off back to Flynn Hansen. Off of his stick, though. And St. Peter's able to come in on a rush, but knocked off of their stick to Gavin Sebring. Ellis Palmer with the puck. Tries to skate it through, but gets knocked off of his stick. Bounce back into the defensive zone. No icing called. Puck rung around to Jackson Baker. Off of his stick to a St. Peter's player. Back out front into Gavin Sebring's stick. Gavin Sebring looking for somewhere to go, but only finds a St. Peter's stick. Puck back into Gavin Sebring. Passes it up again. Weird bounce off the boards, ends up on a St. Peter's stick. Jack Kettleson with it, bounced off of his stick onto St. Peter's. Liam able to break up a rush, puts it into an empty space where it only finds St. Peter's sticks. Pass up to Flynn Hansen. Flynn tries to pass it up to Clara Domke, but it ends up only finding St. Peter's sticks. Shot comes in off of pads to Breck Johnson. Breck tries to put it up, but it ends up just on a St. Peter's stick. Shot comes in, saved by Iris. Deflected by Jackson Jurf. Trying to come in on a rush, but it is 1-on-3. Puck up to Jackson Hunt. Now to Maverick. Maverick with a shot and snagged by the St. Peter's goalie. Timeout, Roughriders. One minute timeout here. Roughriders need to go get some shots on net to have a chance of being able to turn this one around. .3:14 remaining in the game. Face off on the glove side of the St. Peter's goaltender. Cedar Rapids has pulled their goalie, so it is now a 6-on-5. Face off is controlled back to St. Peter's. Offside. Face off now down in the neutral zone. 3 minutes and 1 second remaining. Face off is controlled by Cedar Rapids. Jack Kettleson has it, skating it in. Shot comes in off of the goalie's blocker to St. Peter's. Puck deflected. Jack Kettleson is able to get it. Off the post. Shot goes wide. DJ gets it out of immediate trouble. Then pops it up to Jack Kettleston, but it looks like Jack's a little bit out of gas. Looks back to Gavin Sebring. Passes it over to Jackson Baker. Up to Corbin Seck, but off of his stick. Puck gets up to the point, comes around to the other side. Shot goes wide. Corbin Seck able to get it. Passes it to himself off the boards. Got a rush coming. Passes it to Jack Kettleson. Tries to get it through the goalie, but no dice. Minute and 13 seconds remaining. Face-off is controlled by St. Peter's. Up to the Cedar Rapids point. Liam Smith tries to get it deeper. Stuck in some feet, though. And out of the zone. Gets down deep into the St. Peter zone. Puck up to the wing. Tried to get out, and it does. Jackson Hunt's going to be first on it. 30-some seconds remaining. Maverick Rasmussen with the puck. Tries to get a pass up off of Jackson Hunt's stick. St. Peter's going to be first on it. Loose puck that Jackson Hunt is first on, and then thrown to a St. Peter's player. And that is the end of the game here. Cedar Rapids falls in the championship game by a score of 4-1. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. We've had a fantastic time in Wisconsin. Going to be a couple of weeks until the Roughriders' next game. Thank you all for joining us.